There's this dialogue between Thrawn and a guy called Night Swan. Night Swan has been a bit of a um, intellectual combatant throughout the book, and so they finally meet, Night Swan and Thrawn, and they have a discussion about the Empire and the evils of the Empire. And here's what I want to get to. Let's get to. I don't want to give away too much. Let me get back to where they get to this part of the conversation. Here we go. So I've been through the book, and if you've read any of the Thrawn novels, Thrawn is not your typical evil bad guy. He's not a murderer. He's not. He, in fact, he goes out of his way to save lives. He keeps trying to protect lives, protect people. He stands up for the helpless. He protects those who have no ability to protect themselves. He does his best to keep from taking lives unnecessarily. He's always trying to think of the situation through so that there's a minimal loss of life, if any. And even his combatants, the people, his opponents, he tries to preserve their lives. So he's having this discussion with Night Swan, who he's been going up against. And Night Swan's kind of uh, giving him a little. Uh, Hold on a second. I'm going to change this up. I'm going to change this up. Just a second here. Let's see if I can do this. Aha! There we go. How about that? That's better, huh? Um, so Night Swan's trying to uh, understand him. He says, "What I can't understand is why you still serve the Empire." Night Swan tells Thrawn, "Can't you see the evil you're helping to perpetuate? You're against evil. You say there's a great evil out there in the galaxy that you're trying to destroy or trying to defend against, trying to build up strength to defend. Can't you see the evil you're helping to perpetuate?" And Thrawn says, "I'll give you a scenario. Say you and I face a dangerous predator intent on slaughter. Running is impossible. Tools and weapons are limited. What are your options?" So I know here he says running is impossible. I equate it to like if a bear is chasing you, you don't have to necessarily outrun the bear. You just got to outrun the guy who's next to you, right? So if the guy next to you gets caught by the bear, you could still get away. But he said, okay, so running's impossible, but you're in that kind of situation. The predator is intent on slaughter. Is going to kill you, right? Running's impossible. Tools and weapons are limited. What do? The two of you, right? Given that situation, um, Night Swan tells him, well, the obvious choice is to join forces. Thrawn says, well, unity against the common foe is one choice, but there's another. And Thrawn says, you strike me down, so you strike down your opponent to make them easier prey. Then while the predator devours me, right? While there you go. There you go. If a polar bear is chasing you, you got right? You got to take out the elf next to you so that they become the meal. And while they're chewing down on the elf, then you right? While the bear is eating the elf, right, then you find or build a weapon you can use to ensure your own survival, right? So you kill the bear while the bear is eating the elf. That's how it would go, right? My point, Thrawn said, is that was the choice that lay before me when I decided to visit the Empire. Right? So they have a little talk about how he got there and so on. And he says, um, there's a bunch of other stuff. He says, there are evil things in this galaxy, far more evil than the Empire, and far more dangerous to all living beings. We know some, while others we've only heard of rumors. Um, just for you to know, he's talking about the Grisk here. Some of the Grisk is known, but there's a lot unknown about them, right? So he's talking about the Grisk. Says, others we've only heard rumors. We need to know whether the Empire that was rising from the ashes of the Clone Wars could be an ally against them. So this is interesting. Thrawn, it places on a timeline, right? So Thrawn says he came in after the Throne Wars. He said, here's what he wanted to know: whether they could be an ally against them, or whether it should be collapsed into an easy prey. So with the Empire, we have two options. One, be an ally, gain forces against them. It's the same as the polar bear trying to eat Santa and Elf, right? So did the elf and Santa work together to defeat the polar bear, or does Santa kill the elf and let the bear eat the elf while he attacks the polar bear? How's that work? That's exactly what he's saying. He says, I met a Jedi general during my Clone Wars investigations, gave me credentials to offer a new empire. Thus, I was best to sin. He met with Anakin Skywalker, and that comes in some of the books. So it says, it says that, why do the Gris scare him so bad? Yeah, that's a great question, Kay. Let's get through the. I'll just tell you, the Gris, they have a strategy of infiltrating. Let me put it in terms that makes sense. They infiltrate to start a civil war. So what they do is they feed one side of the political group within any society. They feed them with half-truths, rumors, lies about the other side. Then they do the same on the other side, so that builds distrust within a group. So if you were to take the United States, for example, and you were to say, okay, red states, blue states, just kind of oversimplify. We're going to tell the red states a bunch of stuff about the blue states, that they're trying to plan a preemptive strike against you red states because they don't like you. Then they would go to the blue states and they would say, hey, those red states, they're trying to plan a preemptive strike against you, so because they don't like you. Then they would get them to fight each other. Red states battle blue states. You have a full-on civil war. The civil war then completely decimate each side, bring them down to nothing. The Gris then come in because they were so weakened that they overtake them and then absorb them in. And because they're such intellectual in the way they do things, they sow dishonest civil war. And they're not quite like the Yuzan Vong, talented Mr. Ripley. Yuzan Vong involve like the Force and all kinds of other stuff, and they're like these mighty warriors. The Gris aren't so much that. They more or less get you to fight against each other, and then they get you to decimate yourselves. They come in and they then win your loyalty over, and they become then part of you become part of their culture, and they keep building out and building out and building out that way. And so the number of resources they have, the number of cultures they have, civilizations, worlds, galaxies that they've brought under their control is growing and growing and growing to a massive scale, so much that a very small portion of the Gris forces attacked the Chiss Ascendancy and were a big threat. Small portion, big threat. He's worried, what if they bring the entire force against us? We stand no chance. The Empire, likewise. If the Gris were to bring in their full forces, they would have no chance, right? There's just too many of them. Many would equate it to China's army now because there were so many of them, but that's not even quite accurate. So it says, let's get on to the story. So Thrawn says, certainly the Empire is corrupt. No government truly escapes that plague. Certainly it is tyrannical, right? So the Empire is evil, it's corrupt, it's tyrannical. It says, but quick and utter ruthlessness is necessary when the galaxy is continually threatened by chaos. So coming in with overwhelming force into a chaotic situation can quell things until you get things organized, and then it should be fine. It says, that revolt must die. The danger is too great. The stakes are too high. If the Empire falls, what can replace it? Well, Night Swan says, well, justice, mercy, freedom. How about that? Thrawn says, well, what about chaos, lawlessness, another Clone Wars, right? Um, what if it goes that way? It doesn't go to peace, mercy, and freedom. It goes into chaos, lawlessness. Like, what do you do then? And Nice One says, I have a more optimistic view. So he says, so you consider tyranny to be a bulwark against evil. For how long? This is the next part that's just fascinating. He says, uh, he asks him, how long will you accept tyranny as a necessary part of imperial rule? Until all resistance is silenced? Until all evils are vanquished? Thrawn says, no, the Emperor will not live forever. When it comes time for his authority to be handed to another, my position as a senior officer will allow me to influence the choice of that leader, whoever is going to replace the Emperor. He says, and do you expect that new leader to spread light into the darkness? Thrawn says, there is hope that he will. If evil is victorious, I hope that hope will be extinguished forever. So this is what we have. Thrawn is saying, hey, sure, the Empire's got tyranny, it's got all this stuff, but there's a greater threat out there that is unimaginable to you. That has to be defeated. So we need to build up strength. And when the Emperor dies, we can bring light into the darkness by bringing in, say, a benevolent leader, somebody who believes in justice, believes in mercy, believes in um, freedom, right? But they can bring in to protect those who can't protect themselves, to defend those who can't defend themselves, to stand for right, right? That's what Thrawn's saying. They'll bring light to the darkness. And as you read the entire book, you see those are his core values. Those are his core principles, right? Defend the defenseless, to defeat evil. That's what he's about. And he says, when the Emperor's gone, that's what's going to happen. So let's put that into context of Ahsoka, what's coming up, right? In Rebels, we see Thrawn, he's helping the Empire get stronger, right? The Purgle, he's out, right? What happened while he was out? The Empire fell. The Emperor is presumed dead, right? Somehow he lived, but right now he's presumed dead. Right? The Emperor is presumed dead. The Empire has fallen. Thrawn's gone. We get to Ahsoka. Thrawn comes back. The New Republic is trying to disarm. His mind is saying, whoa, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Don't disarm. That's you're going to make yourselves vulnerable. You need strength. You need a military. You need might. And he's going to come in, see that the Emperor has left. They need a new ruler, one that'll bring light to the galaxy. Who would that be? Who is the new ruler that's going to bring light to the galaxy and strength? Well, it's probably himself, right? Probably himself. Thrawn's going to come in and say, I think I need to be the ruler because this New Republic, you guys don't get it. Like you're dumb. I need to come in. I need to establish strength and order and power, and I'll bring light to the galaxy. I'll rule justly. I'll rule with compassion, right? Defeat evil. That's his plan. So I'm super anxious for Ahsoka when we get there, and when Thrawn comes back. I think we're going to build up to this major movie event that's going to happen with Thrawn, and how is he going to, how's this all going to play out? Is he still going to be part of, have this mindset? Is Dave Filoni going to bring in the true character of Thrawn to want to lead, right? It says, will Thrawn bring down the New Republic? Well, okay, we know he doesn't. We know that by the time we get to The Force Awakens, the New Republic is still there and the First Order is there. But what's happened is now we have fragments of the Empire, and the First Order is one of those fragments. We've got the New Republic there. It's basically what the Grisk set in motion in all these other worlds, right? The Grisk, and by the way, in this trilogy, the Grists do come into the Empire space, and they do try to establish a bit of a hold, and they start implanting their ideology into people, and they start winning over minds in the Empire. And then Thrawn comes in and pushes them out, right? Hey, Felonious. He says, I just want to make a blue alien movie, Santa. Felonious D. I understand Felonious D. But I hope he understands who Thrawn is. He's not an evil, murderer. He's not a destroyer of worlds. He tries to defend people. He tries to preserve life. And he's trying to build strength to defend against an evil that is a threat. So what I could see is him coming back and saying, you guys are messed up. You should all follow me. And so these other, say the remnants of the Empire, you guys all need to fall in line under me. You talk about Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon, he wasn't on the reservation, right? If you watched Mandalorian season 3, you could clearly see in there that Moff Gideon is in a different faction, right? He's got his own faction. And all of these, if you read the Aftermath novels, each of these Moffs are trying to vie for control, and it's breaking apart the Empire into fiefdoms, right? And so if that's what happens, Thrawn comes in and says, you guys all need to come together under me. Not only that, but New Republic folks, you're messed up. You're dumb, right? You're dumb. First Order folks, you need to get on out of here. You need to be part of this, right? You need to be part of this solution. Anybody who opposes him would be, that's where you're going to see the friction. That's where you're going to see issues. And what I hope we get, what I truly hope we get, is a full-on Grisk invasion that they fight back, and then Thrawn goes back to Chiss space. That explains where he is by the time we get to the Force Awakens, and that the powers left over were the First Order and the New Republic. That all these other Moffs and things were kind of eliminated along the way, and that when we get to the First Order or the Force Awakens, that's what's going on. That's my hope. I think it's a great book. You get a real insight into who Thrawn is. There's so many things in there. Felonious D. Ooh, he's a compassionate conservative. Write that down. With the 12 colors. Hey, I had one of those. Not 12 colors. I think I had like 6, but I got you. Felonious D. Benevolent dictator. That's who Thrawn would see himself as being. A benevolent dictator. Somebody who wants to bring peace and justice, order, prosperity, strength to the galaxy, so that people live free and people have rights and people are treated well. That's what he sees, right? He sees himself as a benevolent dictator. I think that's what he wants to be. So anyway, that's come join us on Patreon. I'm going to be posting the last of the book today, and then hopefully within the next week or so, we'll start getting into the next book in the series. So that's where Thrawn and Vader go on a trip together. We see some prequel era content. We see some original trilogy content, and it's a really good show. So you guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. We've got the Mike Porter dad joke of the day to finish out. It says, what do you call a golf game between Kenobi and Vader? What's a golf game between Kenobi and Vader? Oh, Par Wars. Oh, Mike Porter, thank you so much for the dad joke. Thank you all for hanging out with me here today. I've had fun talking Star Wars with you. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. God bless you and take care. Until next time, my friends, Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you always. Bye-bye.